The Canadian-Indian relations hang by a thread. Prime Minister Trudeau has levelled a shocking accusation against India, alleging the murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil, a charge vehemently denied by India, labelling the victim a Khalistani terrorist. Are we witnessing the dawn of something much larger, a seismic shift in diplomatic ties? Could President Trudeau's decisions potentially cripple Canada's economy, considering India's prominent role in the global market? And what's the importance of Indian students in this equation? Join us in today's video exploration. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. To understand the depth of the matter, I want you to first understand what the Khalistan Movement is. Supported by a small group of Indian Sikhs, the Khalistan Movement is all about wanting to break away and create a separate Sikh homeland from the Indian state of Punjab. This idea has been around for a while, but it became most intense in the 1970s and 1980s. During that time, militant Sikhs, led by a preacher named Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, took up weapons against the Indian government and carried out a violent campaign that sadly killed many innocent people. In recent times, some people have accused the Pakistani government and their intelligence agency, the Inter-Services Intelligence, of keeping the Khalistan movement going. This makes people in India worried, and they don't want the movement to start up again and cause more religious violence. So people from different political backgrounds in India are supporting the Indian government because they are concerned about this threat. I also want you to know that this Khalistan movement has been gaining momentum in recent times in India, Canada, Australia, and other countries. So, amid the rising Indian concerns about this movement, on September 18th, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau surprised everyone by saying that he thinks India had something to do with the killing of a Canadian person named Hardeep Singh Nijjar on June 18th in British Columbia. Nijjar was a staunch Khalistani. India didn't like that at all. They said it was a crazy idea and accused Canada of providing shelter to Khalistani terrorists and extremists who threaten India's security. In 2020, India even had already said that Nijjar was a Khalistani terrorist. Some reports say that Canada got this idea from Five Eyes, an intelligence alliance comprising Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Even though the US is friends with India, they told Canada that India's intelligence groups might be involved. But because no one knows who's right, Canada or India, one cannot comment at the moment. However, things have gotten worse. India kicked out the top Canadian spy in India. They also told their people not to go to Canada because of what they called anti-India activities there. On Canada's side, they sent a high-ranking Indian official away. Plus, a Canadian trade leader named Mary N.G. cancelled a trip to India, and they stopped talking about a big trade agreement they'd been working on for a long time. Meanwhile, the Western countries have been quite cautious in how they react to the ongoing disagreement, because they see India as an important balance to China. Moreover, the US is trying to be a peacemaker between Canada and India. Some experts say that Canada's interests are not as big as India's in the grand scheme of things. So it's not likely that Canada's friends, like the US, the UK, and France, will break their ties with India just because of what Prime Minister Trudeau said. With all this global political stuff going on, some people wonder if India, which is a much bigger economy and a giant in its own right, can really harm the Canadian economy. Is this idea fair? But before we dig into this, let's first get a grip on how India and China do business with each other. In the previous year, India stood as Canada's 10th largest trading partner, as per information from Global Affairs Canada. They even mentioned that India is going to be an important partner as Canada strengthens its economic connections with the Indo-Pacific region under a new comprehensive strategy. When we look at the numbers, Canada sold around $5.4 billion worth of goods and provided services worth approximately $6.2 billion to India. On the flip side, Canada bought goods valued at $6.4 billion and received services amounting to $2.9 billion from India. Canada's primary export to India in 2022 was fossil fuels and related items, totaling nearly $1 billion. Next in line were fertilizers, worth nearly $748 million, and wood pulp and plant fibers, coming in at about $384 million, according to data from Trading Economics and UN Comtrade. India, on the other hand, primarily exported pharmaceutical products valued at about $418 million, followed by iron and steel products worth around $328 million, and machinery, nuclear reactors, and boilers valued at approximately $287 million. Certain parts of Canada's economy rely heavily on this trading relationship. For instance, India has been the largest source country for international students in Canada since 2018. In 2022, their numbers went up by 47%, reaching nearly 320,000 students, making up around 40% of all overseas students, according to the Canadian Bureau of International Education. This reliance on international students who pay higher tuition fees has increased as Canadian universities and colleges face limits on what they can charge domestic students, and higher education funding has slowed down. Additionally, India plays a significant role in Canada's pulse industry, with roughly $400 million worth of Canadian lentils shipped to India each year over the past 3 years. A substantial part of Canada's exports to India, valued at over $1 billion, is attributed to Saskatchewan, a Canadian province. This trade encompasses commodities like lentils, which India has occasionally blocked or delayed due to changes in pest control policies. Saskatchewan even maintains a trade and investment office in New Delhi to facilitate this relationship. Clearly, India and Canada have a good history of trading, considering they are both democratic nations in the world. Their focus is mainly on the economy, so let's take a closer look at how this might affect them, especially Canada. One area of concern could be the agriculture sector. Usually, when governments want to show their unhappiness through trade actions, they may get involved in things like how many inspections are needed or what chemicals can be used on crops. This is a common approach when countries want to express their diplomatic displeasure, and it's something we should keep an eye on to see if the Indian government takes any such measures. A prolonged disagreement could also potentially affect the number of international students from India studying in Canada. This would have an impact on various economic interests in Canada, including higher education institutions and the local economies where these institutions are situated. There's another way to look at this situation. Some experts believe that the recent tensions between India and Canada won't really affect their trade and business connections. They say that both countries have economic ties that are driven by practical business reasons. These experts also point out that India and Canada typically trade in different types of products that complement each other. So, the problems between them might not have a big impact on their trade relationships. One expert, Ajay Srivastava, who is a co-founder of the Global Trade Research Initiative, says that Canadian pension funds will keep investing in India. They see India as having a large market and offering good returns on their investments. In fact, by the end of 2022, Canadian pension funds had already put more than $45 billion into India. This makes India the fourth largest destination for Canadian foreign investment in the world. These funds usually invest in areas like building infrastructure, renewable energy, technology, and financial services in India. In any case, some of the economic connections between India and Canada might face challenges. India is a significant market, and Canada wouldn't want to lose out on opportunities there. These are important allegations made by Prime Minister Trudeau, and at the same time, the Khalistan issue is a sensitive topic for Indian society. For now, this issue is in the spotlight, but both countries must find a way to address it. If things don't improve, there's a possibility that Pakistan and China could try to take advantage of the situation. India should definitely keep a close eye on this and take appropriate steps to protect its interests. If you like the video, do subscribe to the channel for more updates.